Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This is Langley Outdoors Academy, and thank you for stopping by. All right, guys, it is a hell of a time to be a Second Amendment rights supporter because we have got some breaking news coming out of the White House right now, particularly around gun crime prevention. Now, there's a lot to this, and we're going to dive into it, but essentially the high points, we are talking about gun violence prevention task forces that are going to 5 major United States cities. Can you imagine who controls them and which ones they are? We're going to talk about it in depth, but there's also some other things that are happening. They are actually hiring more police. You heard that right. I said more. And how they're doing it is they're going through the COVID-19 relief funds package that they passed in early 2021. This is some crazy stuff, and I know some lefties are going to be pissed off about this, but we're going to talk about it in depth, and everything is linked in the description box below for your review so you guys can be in on the know and be ahead of the curve, because Biden's going to talk about this later today. And if there's anything of note, we're going to bring that to you as well. But right now, this is hot off the presses, so let's dive in, okay? All right, so the article I'm using today, there's 3 linked in the description box below, but the one that I'm going to quote heavily from is probably the most honest. Biden administration announces strategy to address gun violence and ensure public safety. All right, now this is a small local article, but the reason I'm using the local and not the CNN article that's linked below is because CNN is a political slant hard. They are hiding the fact and the why behind what they're doing, and this why is why we talk about this channel. In fact, if you guys have been with us for a while, we've been alluding to the fact that 2022 is right around the corner, and they're worried and they're scared, and this goes towards that point. So let's dive in a little further. So here's what's happening. President Joe Biden will outline his administration's national gun prevention strategy Wednesday and meet with local leaders on the issue. In remarks that are set to focus on targeting gun violence and new resources for community policing across the country, they're going to be refunding the police. Okay, if that is not a signal that they know there's weakness in 2022 around crime and prevention, this entire push, think about it, okay, before we go too deep, they are in the middle of their infrastructure package, their signature legislation that's kind of stalled. They're stopping to do this crime prevention thing and deploy the DOJ to 5 national cities. That's a big deal. They're not doing any of the filibuster push, not doing any of the other legislation. They are putting that on pause. The Voting Rights Act, all the things that they want, they're putting on hold because this is that pressing. Keep that in mind. There's always a why behind their actions. But let's dive into that a little further. The Biden administration is responding to a rise in violent crime throughout the United States in the last 18 months. Senior administration officials said, especially homicides and gun assaults. The president could also be politically vulnerable on the issue of criminal justice, for which he receives a 35% approval rating in a recent Des Moines Register Mediacom Iowa poll. Okay, 35% is so low that they are actually moving against one of the Democrats' founding motivations of defund the police. They are hiring more police, using COVID funds to do so, and they're responding quickly and deploying the DOJ. Big deal, guys. This really speaks well for 2022 because they're worried. All right. So now let's dive into the next pieces here. On Wednesday, the president is expected to lay out his 5-part plan for crime prevention while negotiations on both gun control legislation and a police reform bill are ongoing in Capitol Hill. That means stalled. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Tuesday summarized the strategy as putting in place safety measures to make our streets safer, preventing the use of guns and violent crime across the country, and ensuring that we can have more cops on the beat to protect communities. 2 things here. The first thing, preventing the use of guns and violent crime across the country, that's just to make sure the gun control advocates are brought on board, because that's what that's about. That's just marketing. Okay. Second thing, ensuring that we can have more cops on the beat to protect our communities. Does that sound in conflict to, anything that we've heard over the last 18 months? This is coming from the press secretary of the White House. This is Biden's press secretary. That, I don't know how it's going to be received too well from the far left. But let's continue. In the first quarter of 2021, homicides increased by nearly 25% from the same period in 2020, an official noted. From 2019 to 2020, nearly every one of the nation's 70 largest law enforcement jurisdictions saw an increase in at least one category of crime, according to a survey from the Major Cities Chiefs Association. According to the survey, homicides rose from about 6,000 annually to 8,000, while aggravated assault incidents, including those involving guns, increased by nearly 33,000. Now ask yourself, what is the national catalyst that would cause a universal increase in crime across the entire country What could that be? Then, once you figure that out mentally, ask yourself why they would be responding so heavily to raid COVID-19 funds, increase cop presence, and send the DOJ. Because they're vulnerable and they know it. What we've been talking about for the last 6 months on this channel is 2022 is going to be a bloodbath if we do what we need to do. They are signaling massive weakness and they are afraid. This is big, but let's continue. So now let's talk about this task force, and this is where the gun piece comes in. Okay? On Tuesday, the DOJ followed Biden's April directive with the announcement of 5 gun trafficking strike forces to establish across the country in the next month. Well, across the country. That's interesting. What cities particularly? On Tuesday, the DOJ followed... I did that already. The groups will serve 5 major regions: New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and San Francisco Bay Area, and Washington, D.C., and will tackle the issue of illegal firearm trafficking as part of the effort to reduce violent crime. All right. All 5 of those cities, what do they have in common? They're all gun control cities. They are sending strike forces, or task force, strike task force, however you want to call it, to liberal cities that have extreme gun control measures. Washington, D.C., no guns allowed. New York, bad. Chicago, bad. Los Angeles, bad. San Francisco, bad. These are all terrible for gun rights. In fact, it's almost impossible to have a handgun in these places. So why would they be sending a strike task force to these areas if there's already gun control? You and I both already know the answer, because gun control doesn't work. But here's the next thing, and this is how they're trying to bring in all the different pieces. They're trying to say, well, it's to stop the illegal firearm trafficking from neighboring states. And when this fails miserably, it's only going to be worse for them, because it's not about the trafficking, it's about the fact that people are going to do what they're going to do, and you can't stop them. That's the big point here. They are showing significant weakness on the gun debate. They're deploying to massive gun control zones in order to stop the gun violence. They're raiding COVID-19 funds, and they're hiring more police. Guys, I'm telling you, this is bigger than what they're saying. That's a big thing. But that's what I have for you tonight. If I come back, this is actually filmed before Biden's big speech. If he says anything of consequence, I'll make another video. I'll come out with another one. But right now, guys, this is a positive for the gun movement, because they're on the defense right now. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And until tomorrow, I'm Braden. See you later.